Money Radio, discussing the business of making and spending money.
It's a warm welcome to you from the studio of Leadership Last Word. And, you are on to Money Radio this afternoon from the city of Abuja on Leadership TV. We are discussing a strong topic today that affects many of us living in Nigeria, and it is on the topic that says, how can Nigeria reverse deforestation? How can Nigeria reverse deforestation? This deforestation is actually threatening the very way of life of Nigeria. Of course, deforestation is contributing to what we are calling climate change in Nigeria. The thing is, especially a difficult situation. In fact, it is like between the devil and the deep blue sea because, on the one hand, we want more trees. We want to plant trees and we want to preserve those trees. On the other hand, Nigeria has housing deficit of supposedly 17.5 million, and to bridge the gap of 17 million housing deficit, you need planks, you need plywood, you need those things that we need from the forest to accomplish that. But Nigeria still also wants to make sure that we preserve our forests. That is the situation we find ourselves in. We are stymied. In the studio to discuss that topic with me is Mr. Paul Uwadima. Mr. Paul, you're welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, and with this man in the studio, I can assure you, you are in good company because he's always ready to thrash the topic. So, Mr. Paul, we are between the devil and the deep blue sea. First of all, what are the consequences of deforestation?
Well, thank you for this opportunity. The consequences of deforestation is huge. You know that as human beings, we take in oxygen and breathe out. We take in oxygen and breathe out carbon dioxide, and the importance of tree in purifying our environment cannot be overemphasized. If you look at the the forests that we have, they used to be the source of making our weather and our atmosphere to be cleaner because they absorb some of the excess uh, carbon dioxide that is released in the atmosphere. It is because of the inability of the trees to absorb all the carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. That is why we are beginning to have challenges of climate change and global warming because the oxygen is now trapped in the atmosphere. We don't have enough trees because trees normally absorb them so that to help to keep the atmosphere at equilibrium. But with the high rate of deforestation, this balance in the ecosystem is being disrupted and it's affecting uh, many parts of the world. In fact, all over the world are facing challenges of climate change. In our country, Nigeria here, because of the high rate of deforestation, the desertification is increasing up north and moving down south. In the south, because of deforestation, we are having more serious uh, uh, erosion, both coastal erosion and gully erosion, because the trees are supposed to keep the soil together. They are the binds that holds the soil together. Now, when you begin to cut the trees so frequently, you will expose the land to flooding, to water runoff. That is why if you notice in Nigeria today, whenever we enter the rainy season, the flooding become more intense than ever before.
Yeah.
You find out that the level of flooding, even in part of Nigeria that are not receiving much rainfall, like in the northern part of the country, they are still facing the challenges of uh, flooding, because over the years, trees are being cut for development. This is as a result of urbanization, population increase, and other needs which trees are subjected to by man. So trees play a very key role in, in our environmental sustainability. Now, you mentioned how do we combine this need for forestry resources like wood for building houses, for furniture, and all that, and then the need to preserve the environment so that we can be able to live an environment whereby we are not threatened by desertification, we are not threatened by flooding, we are not threatened by climate change. It's just to manage the environment in a sustainable way. Sustainability, if you are to define it as a resource, so when you talk about sustainable resource or management of resources in a sustainable way, it is how do you manage the resources that you are endowed with in such a way that it will meet your needs of today and still remain to meet the needs of future generation. That is the quagmire that the world is inside right now. And that is why sustainability is a big buzz, whether in the environmental sector or in every other sector, because most of the resources are exhaustible. Thankfully, things like forestation, man can intervene in such a way that he can either reduce the rate of cutting down the trees or ensure that as trees are cut, they are more are replanted in their place, so that there will be no time that the land will be left bare for all manner of devastation, all manner of environmental degradation to, to cause a problem in the society. So that is the quagmire that man faces. Nigeria also faces it. It's a big challenge in Nigeria because in parts of northern Nigeria, you find out that the rate of forestry loss has been huge. That is why desertification is increasing in the north. Federal government has made effort through the Great Green Wall program. It is a program in which trees are planted. Millions of trees are planted in Nigeria's Sahel region, places bordering places like Borno, Yobe, Taraba, Adamawa. Even women are paid, and some youths are paid to plant these trees and maintain it at a small with a small token given to them to be watering it and all that. It's just to make sure that we halt the certification in the north. In the south, efforts are also being made by government to reduce coastal erosion, to reduce gully erosion by encouraging people to stop uncontrolled deforestation. So that is the challenge we face. Now, we are facing this challenge also because we are not properly monitoring the situation of things. Let me give you a typical example. You are telling the local people in northern Nigeria that they should not cut tree for firewood.
Yeah.
Because cutting those trees is one of the things that enabled uh, the environmental hazard like flooding, desertification, and all that.
Exactly.
Now, but you made the gas very expensive for the rural women in northern Nigeria to have access to gas. They don't have access to kerosene.
And they must cook.
And they must cook. So at the end of the day, it means we are not serious in stopping deforestation, because if we are, we have to find a means in which the average northern housewife will not see any need to use firewood
Yeah.
to cook. because gas is so cheap that she can be able to afford it to feed her, to cook for her family.
And there is gas available in the country.
And
We'll
there
come
is
to
gas
that.
that are being wasted
Yes,
in
we'll come to that.
in the country.
Yeah.
So these are some of the challenges that managers of resources in Nigeria, both in the economic sector and in the environmental sector, they have to address it.
Yeah. Um, for now, I don't think Nigeria is exporting log.
You know, it's a ban. It's
It's
banned.
banned.
It's illegal to
So what
export
we are
law.
talking about is local need.
Yes.
And we're talking about a population of 210 million
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
surviving on the forests we have.
Yes.
And for much of the north, that is out of it because
Yes.
it's semi-desert.
Yes.
So we're talking about middle Nigeria, middle belt of
Yeah.
Nigeria, and
Yeah.
then
Yes.
south.
Yes.
These are the areas we are talking about.
Yes.
Albeit the plans and the effort on the part of the federal government to make sure that these trees are replanted and taken care of. Funny enough, we talk about job with unemployment. Most of the unemployment that we complain about can actually be assuaged by having people who do nothing and who do think about nothing else but crime. But when you engage these people and put them to work and tell them, look, this portion of land belongs to you. You are expected to plant 1,000 trees, and that expectation means you must water and nurture the tree. And once it grows, and you make sure that it grows, and if it grows, he's on a certain wage or a certain salary.
Exactly.
Those are some of the things, not just federal government, because this issue is not affecting the federal government mainly, it's affecting state governments. So if you look at it, if the state governments, especially the northern state governments, were to put some of those allocations, some of those security votes into paying young people grow trees, that may it may go, if not a long way, it may go some way in ensuring that.
It will go a long way because that is basically the scientific way of handling it. When
Yes,
trees are cut, they need to be at least five more should be planted in place of any one tree that you cut.
yes,
And you know that some of these trees are very old trees, and
yes.
unless you have hybrid trees that grows on time, it takes a long while for trees to come up. Are you getting it? So
Yes,
it's a situation that has to be well coordinated. And I know that the United Nations Environment Program and the Nigerian government, they are in a program with this Great Green Wall. We have a Green Wall Commission here in Abuja, but they are coordinating this tree planting in the Sahel fringes of Nigeria.
you know,
So they are doing enough, but it's just that many people are not aware of what they are doing because after all, the challenge is not very visible, especially when you are in the middle belt of Nigeria or in
yes,
southern Nigeria.
yes,
They are doing a lot, but it remains to be seen whether it's sufficient to
exactly,
curb the problem. Because even if you look at the challenge we are having with herdsmen and farmers, it is as a result of several years of deforestation in the north.
exactly,
Because the deforestation also corresponds with a reduction in rainfall activities.
exactly.
Because if you understand the way rainfall operates, you also know that tree planting and rainfall goes hand in hand.
Yeah,
Most areas that are well forested receive better rainfall than areas that have scanty trees.
exactly.
So this has forced many headers to move from the north to the south. And normally, this transhuman process is what will help them so that when they stay in the south for a while, during the rainy season, they return back to the north. But even the returning back to the north becomes an issue because the rainfall regime has drastically reduced, and the grass are not coming up as fast as they should. That's why sometimes they prefer to just remain down there in the south, and it leads to so much conflict between farmers and the itinerant headers.
Interesting
So
topic.
it's a challenge that need to be met
Yeah.
because, like you rightly pointed out, Nigeria is having about 17.5 million housing deficit. And now, if you are to meet up with this deficit, bridge the gap, you need wood.
You need wood.
You can't rule out doing bridging that gap without sufficient wood,
Yes.
and or you have to import. Already, I think in 2020, Nigeria imported about 15 billion naira worth of woods. Yes,
Can you imagine?
plywood, veneers, and all this wood from China and stuff. Spend a lot of money to bring them into the country.
And at the time,
But if we take advantage of our potential in the sector, because Nigeria is blessed with about 600 varieties of woods, and we're only exploiting about 30 of them, or they are about less than 30. And if these are opportunities for investors in the sector, but they are not. Government is not paying much attention to it since they are still the oil money coming in.
there was a time you mentioned China, and I want to mention here also that there was a time in the 1950s, 1960s, China embarked on a program of deforestation. They wanted to develop, and so they started cutting down trees. It turned out that that exercise actually impoverished the country. And then when they realized that the country was getting poorer, of course, like you said, without trees, you don't have rainwater or you don't have rainfall,
Exactly.
and a host of other negative
You
consequences.
expose the
You
environment
expose
to
the environment,
degradation.
yes. So they started reforestation, and in time, they have actually grown enough trees.
Yes, yes,
Yes,
they are
and
doing well.
they are now exporting.
But the China is also the Chinese are also a problem in Nigeria. They need to monitor them very well in this country. Even though there is logging export, log export is illegal in Nigeria, is banned. There are allegations that Chinese are still cutting these things illegally in Nigeria and sending to their country. I don't know how they do it, but there are reports out there indicating that the illegal logging that is going on in Nigeria has led to increase in illegal exports
We'll
of
come to that.
logs,
We'll come to
even
that.
though it is banned.
Let's take a short break. When we come back, we will discuss that and more. Listeners, please stay tuned.
For sponsorship and advert placements, please contact 080-3688-6158. Last Word Leadership Podcast Studio. You have the last word.
Money Radio, discussing the business of making and spending money.
Welcome back, viewers. You're still on to Money Radio on Leadership TV, and we are discussing the topic: How can Nigeria reverse deforestation? And still in the studio is our in-house analyst, Mr. Paul Wadima, and I'm your host, Case Harmon. We were talking just before we went on that break about how we need to pay attention to the activities of the Chinese. Mr. Paul, could you expatiate more on that?
Okay. I did say that there are reports that, despite the fact that export of log is banned by federal government. There is ongoing illegal logging and export, allegedly spearheaded by Chinese in Nigeria, by some Chinese in Nigeria in collaboration with some Nigerians. Now, this issue is what needs to be addressed, especially by those whose responsibilities are to monitor our forestry reserves all over the country, to make sure that they are properly monitored and that illegal logging is not going on, and that logs are not being smuggled out of Nigeria to China and other parts of the world. Because when you smuggle it in such an illegal way out of Nigeria, Nigeria gets nothing. So that is why there is a need for proper management of our forestry resources, because these forestry resources can generate a lot of income for Nigeria if properly harnessed. So that if we want to allow logs to leave the country, let it be properly harnessed. We cannot say that we are ban logs being exported from Nigeria. Meanwhile, some people are illegally taking it out of Nigeria and making 100% gain, because government gets nothing, nobody gets anything, and the logs leave the country. So that needs to be addressed. It is one issue that needs to be addressed. And then another issue that needs to be addressed is, like, since we're talking about reversing the deforestation, is to encourage afforestation, encouraging the planting of trees. It used to be a big issue in the past. You see every year, you see the president of the country or governors planting trees to encourage tree planting. We don't do it these days. And it's not as if the environmental challenges have abated. In fact, it's still getting worse. I think there's a need to reinvigorate that campaign, that consciousness of tree planting, so that school children every year, at least during that period that is being marked, uh, plant tree and nurture it and see it grow. It is very important. That is how to grow the consciousness of tree planting, and to also demonstrate to the young ones the importance of trees in our lives. Because we cannot take trees for granted.
Yeah.
You may look at them and think that they are just standing there doing nothing. They are equally balancers of the environmental system that all of us are enjoying.
Exactly.
The ecosystem will be disrupted
Yeah.
when you don't have trees to moderate things.
It's like that is one of the standards the federal government is upholding in the Federal Capital Territory. If you find yourself in Abuja, you realize that part of the beauty of the city of Abuja is trees. And I hear that there is a policy that bans the felling of trees. Before you fell any tree, you must get permission from the authorities, and that is a good one. I think that that policy should be spread among states.
It's a good one.
Yeah. Now, besides that, I was wondering, is it not possible to have, because there is an agency of government, I've visited that office, that is responsible for researching GM products, biodiversity, and genetically modified products. And of course, I was able to have a conversation with the director general of that agency, and he mentioned that they were developing genetically modified cotton for growth to increase Nigeria's cotton production and a good number of other products, including cowpeas and others. Now, I was wondering, isn't it possible to have genetically modified trees that will be drought resistant? Because the problem we are having in the north, and which is about planting trees also, is the drought. So when we have drought resistant trees, of course, there is a particular tree which I learned about when we were in. Uh,
You're talking about trees like baobab.
yeah, and there was another one called
Can retain
cactus.
water for several months
Yes,
and be surviving on
and
it.
be surviving on it. So can't we have those kind of trees
No, but there are trees in the north. All these things like uh, uh, what is the name of this tree that people like to use as tea and all that?
Dogoyaro.
Dogoyaro is not only Dogoyaro, yes, it's one of the. You find out that in many parts of the north, they can withstand long time of drought, low rainfall. Uh, there are so many others like it just escaped me
Mhm.
that naturally they have been planting it in the north. If you go to major northern cities, you see it lining the streets and all that.
Yeah, that's
That's but what the country need is coordinated efforts,
yes.
like what the Great Green Wall are doing. That thing should be a policy that should be embraced by all parts of the country, because there's no part of the country that this deforestation is not devastating the environment.
Of course, you
There are
have
many parts of southeast Nigeria where
yes,
gully erosions
yes,
have been swallowing buildings,
exactly.
have scattered many communities, have have messed up the land system that they became valueless.
And it's just
This
tree planting that could solve that problem.
yes, tree planting, coordinated tree planting,
Yes.
so that you can make sure that the land is not left bare in any place at
Yes.
all.
As a matter of fact, there is adequate rainfall in the southeast of the country.
Yes.
Yeah, so those kind of things are easily achievable. It can be done.
Yeah, but the leaders, are they doing the right thing? Are they paying attention to it?
That's a problem.
That's why sometimes in many parts of the southeast, not only south, the southwest, during the rainy season, you see how flooded everywhere is. Even
Yes.
Lagos is not exempted from this challenge.
Exactly.
Of,
And of course, trees absorb water.
yes,
So
it absorbs water. It hold the ground the soil together, and make sure that flooding impact is reduced.
what about this Sambisa forest? Sambisa forest. I hear that that was part of the plan of the federal government that resulted in the Sambisa forest, or has it been there forever?
No, the Sambisa forest as is just like it's one of the forests. It's supposed to be one of the forest reserves of northern Nigeria, because if you have been to uh, Kainji, that's
Yeah.
Kainji is in Bauchi.
Okay.
No, Kainji is in Niger.
Yeah, Kainji is in Niger.
Yankari Games Reserve,
Yes.
that is Bauchi.
Yeah.
That Yankari Game Reserve is like a forest reserve. It's supposed to be well protected. I think it's well protected. At least I don't think that they allow people to cut trees and do development there without authorization by government.
Yeah. But
All those areas are land that is extended up to the so-called Sambisa forest and all that. But you know that the forest in the north, there's no way you can compare it with that in the south, because, like we said earlier on, the southern part of Nigeria receive higher volume of rainfall than
than
the
the
north.
north.
So
Yeah.
the thickness of the forest, the hardness of the wood that you can get in the south, you can't compare it with that
Yeah.
in the north.
But be
But
that as
northern
it
forest also as endangered as those in the south. And in fact, it's even more endangered because the deforestation taking place in the north. There was a place I read about I read about how the forest of northern Nigeria had been depreciating from 1950 up to about 2020. You know,
that
found
has
out that
affected the Lake Chad, you know.
yes,
It has affected
yes,
the
the
Lake Chad.
lecture has shrunk.
Yes, it has.
It's not what it used to be.
Yes.
Even the president used to
And
lament
as a
about
matter
it.
of fact, that impact that deforestation has had on Lake Chad has actually reduced fishing activities in that part of the country.
And
because
also, it has also precipitated the violence
the
you are seeing
violence
in
that
that,
we are seeing.
because
Because people,
when the economic activities could no longer take place.
Yes.
People resort to crime and
Exactly.
criminality.
And then start to compete
And
for
poverty increases and all that.
Yeah, and it's understandable why people are competing for scarce resources, forest or grass resources, because it's being depleted in that part of the country. So the government needs to make these things a program so that these trends can be
There needs to be a
reversed.
coordinated program.
Yeah, there needs to be
There
a
needs to be a coordinated program to protect the environment, to protect the forest, and to manage the forest resources
yeah,
in such a sustainable way that there will be forest for those who are living in Nigeria today. The forest should be managed in such a way to meet their needs
exactly.
and also remain to meet the needs of future generation.
Yes.
That is what we talk about when you hear the word sustainable management of resources.
That means, as you mentioned earlier, making sure that there is an alternative to fuel and not having our women in the north only exposed
to firewood. You cannot say that they should not use firewood when they cannot afford kerosene.
Yeah.
They cannot have access to gas. So what do they do?
Yes. So that's how we want to draw the curtain on today's edition of Money Radio. And Mr. Paul, it has been great having you on the program. Like I said, we hardly have a dull moment when you are in the studio. So we want to say thank you very much. Thanks to our producers, but biggest thanks go to you who follow us loyally on this program. We'll be back tomorrow with a fresh edition of Money Radio. Until then, I've been your host, Case Hammond. Do keep a date with us when we come tomorrow. Have a great day.
Thank you for watching. For sponsorship and advert placements, please contact 080-3688-6158. Last Word Leadership Podcast Studio. You have the last word.